Hello and welcome. My name's Angie Holden and I'm the blogger behind the Country Chic Cottage. Today we're going to talk about the AutoPress again with sublimation. So I'm running a series of videos all about the Cricut AutoPress. In my opinion, it's a big investment and I need to test it multiple times before giving my final opinion. So this will be my video on sublimation and I'm going to make 10 different sublimation projects. I've already done one video where I unboxed the AutoPress, talked about its features, and I did another video with 10 projects with HTV or iron-on. I'll link to both of those videos in the description below. So if you're new to this series, want to get caught up, that's the place to do that. Also in the description below, I have links to all the blanks that I'm using, as well as the designs I'm using for each of my projects. So what blanks are we going to use? So I tried to pick a wide variety of sublimation blanks and things that I did not use for HTV. So I have everything from bag tags that are made with a plastic material, puzzles like chipboard, slate, glass, a mouse pad, acrylic, a chipboard coaster, a tile, some metal, and a canvas tote bag. So between all of these, I hope to find out just how well that the Cricut AutoPress does with sublimation. So I'm gonna press all of these rapidly, one right after another, after the AutoPress heats up. And then after that rapid pressing of all of these, we'll come back and we'll remove the sublimation sheet from each and take a look at how well the AutoPress did. Now with some of these, there are some instructions to use something else in addition to the AutoPress. So say on the glass cutting board or the metal piece, the instructions might say to use a Nomex pad in the heat press. And I am going to go ahead and follow those instructions. I have the Nomex pad here. I use it in the heat press I have today to do blanks, just like the ones I'm going to do today. So let's see if those work with the AutoPress under the same conditions. Regardless of the blank, you will want to be sure to clean them well. That includes a lint roller or a lint-free cloth, depending on the blank you're using, but you want to make sure to remove any lint or debris and then pre-press them if applicable. So something like fabric you would want to pre-press. So something like this puzzle that's made out of chipboard, I wouldn't pre-press it, but fabric I definitely would. For each of these, I'm going to use a sublimation print. So that is sublimation paper printed on a sublimation printer with sublimation ink installed. So the print might look pretty muted. Once I press it, those colors really should pop. Now in all these cases, I mirrored my print except for a couple. So on the acrylic and the glass, you actually press the print to the back and it shows through the front. So technically you would not mirror because it's going to show through. Now the prints I'm using for my glass and acrylic didn't really matter if they were mirrored or not, so it makes no difference. But if you were doing this at home as something with writing and using acrylic or glass, you would not want to mirror your print because it will show through to the front when you press to the back. If there are any other strange things as I'm pressing these that are in the instructions, I'll go ahead and note that. But I do want you to always follow the instructions that are for your sublimation blank. Wherever you purchase the blank, whether that be Amazon, whether that be another website, go to that listing and see if they have any special instructions. What time and temperature do they recommend? Do they recommend any other equipment like that Nomex pad? Do they have any preheating instructions? Look at all of that before you begin your process. That will make you more successful with sublimation no matter what press you use. So now let's get started pressing. So I'm going to go ahead and set my AutoPress to a time and temperature using the dial settings. You just turn the dial, one dial for temperature, one dial for time, wait for the light to turn green, and the AutoPress is ready. For this tote, I'm pressing at 400 degrees for 45 seconds. I'm going to go ahead and preheat my blank to remove any moisture or any wrinkles. Then allow that to cool a few seconds, put down my sublimation print, tape it into place, and I always use protective paper, both inside the tote as well as on the top. Also, because this tote has quite a few seams, you can either hang those off the sides of the AutoPress or put something like an easy press mat on the inside covered with some of that protective paper. Then you'll just press at the 400 degrees for 45 seconds. Then once that's done, you're ready to remove that sublimation print. Let's move on to pressing something else right now, however. For the mouse pad, I'm pressing at 400 degrees for 60 seconds. So for something like this mouse pad, I do like to make my print oversized. So I like it to go extra around the edges. That means you want to be absolutely certain that you put protective paper underneath and on top of the mouse pad. Press down 400 degrees for 60 seconds. Then we can remove the mouse pad and move on to our next blank. So next is the acrylic round coaster, and it's 400 degrees for 60 seconds. Again, with something like this, you don't have to mirror because you are pressing from the back. Now in this case, I'm using a generic print, so it's really not going to matter. I'm adding the acrylic coaster to the AutoPress, protected paper on the top and the bottom, and I have my sublimation print on top. Then we'll press for the full time at the correct temperature. Then we can remove, allow it to cool, and remove our sublimation print. So for these puzzles, I just clean them well and add my sublimation print with some tape. And then you just press them 380 degrees for 50 seconds. I did find for things like the puzzle that the Nomex pad under the sublimation project worked better than the pad that comes with the Cricut AutoPress itself. I found that the heat was more consistent because the Nomex pad does not give as much. Then I just press it at the right temperature for the full time, remove it, and I can remove my sublimation print after it's cooled down a little bit. For this bag tag, I'm actually going to add my logo. So I did mirror my design. I cleaned the tag well, put on my print, then added protected paper to both the top and the bottom, and pressed it 400 degrees for 60 seconds. Then just remove it, allow it to cool, and you can take a look at your design. This hex coaster calls for medium to firm pressure, so I am excited to see how this one turns out. I lint rolled the top, added my sublimation print, and I'm adding it to the AutoPress with protective paper on the top as well as the bottom. Then I'm just going to press it at the full time at the correct temperature and remove the sublimation print once it cools off a little bit. The ceramic tile does call for the Nomex pad on the bottom, so I've added it to the AutoPress. I cleaned the ceramic tile, added my sublimation print with some tape, then I put it into the AutoPress with my sublimation print, protective paper top and bottom. This one also calls for a green pad across the top. The green pad helps distribute the heat evenly, even if the surface might be a little uneven. So this is super important to use the green pad on the top if something you're sublimating calls for it. Once it's done, I'll just remove that with heat-resistant gloves, allow it to cool a little bit, and peel back that sublimation print. Next, I'm going to do a metal piece. This one calls for the Nomex pad on the bottom, but it calls for it to be preheated, so I will cycle the AutoPress a few times, making sure the Nomex pad is hot. In this case, I'm doing the front and the back of this metal piece at one time. Once that Nomex pad is hot, I'm going to press it 385 degrees for 120 seconds with the metal sublimation blank sandwiched in between two sublimation prints. Again, protected paper on the top as well as the bottom. Then I can remove that, allow it to cool a few minutes, then we'll take a look at finishing this one off because it becomes a bowl. This glass cutting board actually calls for heavy pressure, so we'll see what happens. I put my Nomex felt pad inside of the AutoPress. This one is 400 degrees for 5 minutes, so it does take a long time. You want to put your print on the white side. Again, you don't have to mirror. It didn't matter in my case, but you would not have to mirror because it is going to show through the front. You want to put your image down. So you want your Nomex pad, protected paper, then your sublimation print, your glass cutting board, more protected paper, and then press with your AutoPress. Again, we'll see what happens because this does call for heavy pressure. Press it at 400 degrees for 5 minutes, then remove it, allow it to cool slightly, and remove your sublimation print. Finally, I have a slate sublimation blank. So slate is kind of tricky to sublimate, so we'll see what happens. So I am going to sublimate a photo to this. I've mirrored my design and put it on a clean slate sublimation blank with some tape. This one is 400 degrees for 8 minutes, and I will be using the green pad on top. It does call for medium pressure, so we will see how this works with the Cricut AutoPress. And here is that sublimation tote bag with the sublimation print applied. You can see that the sublimation looks really, really great on this fabric tote bag. Next up is this mouse pad, and you can see that the sublimation looks great on it as well. So here's the mouse pad. The colors are bright and vibrant, no ghosting or anything at all. Here's that sublimation puzzle. This is a chipboard puzzle with a dinosaur print, and everything looks great. So there you have that sublimation puzzle. No fading around the edges or anything. Everything looks amazing. And here's that acrylic coaster. Remember, you put the sublimation print on the frosted back on this one. This is what it looks like from the front. So you can see the sublimation print through that clear acrylic. However, you can also see my hand just a little bit through the frosting because this back portion was white in my sublimation print. Next up is a hexagon coaster. Same print. This one looks really great, even around the edges. Then with that same print, I have the sublimation tile. Remember that a regular tile will not work for this. You do need a sublimation tile. The print on this does look really great, but you may notice some fading around the edges. So these tiles are beveled on the edge, so I tend to get some fading no matter how I press them on the edges themselves. So maybe I just need more practice, or maybe they'll always be like that, I don't know. But I don't think it's a function of the AutoPress. It's either my skills or they're just always like this. Here's that bag tag, and here you can see just how great that bag tag looks. So no ghosting or anything like that. Seriously, any of these sublimation projects on the AutoPress, zero ghosting. Here's that metal project. So let's talk a little bit more about how to finish this one off. First of all, it looks amazing, and I did the front and the back at the same time. So this makes a bowl. How does it make a bowl, right? So it looks kind of like a flower at this point, but one side has these score lines. So I've used these products before. So you just bend them on the score line. So I'm just gonna bend each of these up. I'm gonna bend them up evenly until they touch. Once they touch, this will be a cute little bowl that I can use for like a summer place setting, since it's strawberries is what I was thinking. So I like to bend them up evenly, a little at a time, so I don't overbend any of them, hopefully. And should get to where they're kind of touching here. And there you have a little metal bowl that you can use in your home's decor. And you can see just how awesome the strawberry print is and how great it looks on this white metal blank that I pressed with the AutoPress. All right, it's time for this glass cutting board. So I'm going to remove the sublimation print and all this tape. Even though this one said it required heavy pressure, it looks amazing. Now you can slightly see through it, so you may be able to see my hand there, but that's intentional. Remember, sublimation ink is translucent, so you can see through it. So in this case, you can see slightly through the ink itself. But I love this pattern, and I love this glass cutting board. The final test is this slate. I still have it on the heat resistant mat. These take a very long time to cool down. So I'm going to remove the sublimation print as well as all the tape. So sublimation on slate is one of the toughest things I think that you can do with sublimation, and this one turned out great. So this print did have like a tint to it. The tint is coming through, but the print turned out just like I imagined it. Now I did get a few white spots way down here, if you can see those, and that's just where I didn't get my print exactly centered. So I had it up a little bit too far and got the edge of the print just on the very edge here. No one would probably notice but me, but just to let you know, just in case you do see it, that was my error. Otherwise, the print looks great, and it looks even all the way across, which is something that's hard to get with slate. So the AutoPress did a great job with sublimation on slate. All the projects did great, and I'm super impressed with how they all turned out. Now, like I said, I found the Nomex pad worked better than the pad that comes with the Cricut AutoPress. So I just sort of leaned into using it and used it on most of these blanks. So I found with the AutoPress pad, it indented too much, and it would leave the edges where the sublimation print was a little bit faded. If I used the Nomex pad, it's firmer, so it didn't indent as much when it pushed down, held that sublimation blank up more, and I got a better press. So for me, I'll probably use the Nomex pad on most of my sublimation within the Cricut AutoPress, except for maybe fabrics and things like that. So I actually didn't think that the cutting board would work because it said heavy pressure, and I was also unsure about the slate. Saved those till last, but they both turned out looking really good. Like, I couldn't have asked for any better of a press really with either one of those. Super impressed with that. The bowl is probably my favorite with the little strawberries because of the strawberry print, and I love these metal blanks that can fold up into different shapes. I've used a couple different varieties now, and they are one of my favorite things to sublimate because you can make a 3D object with sublimation and just a heat press that's flat. So I would love to hear from you. What is your favorite sublimation project that I did? And was there anything that was missing that you thought you wanted to see from this video and didn't get to see? So I will be doing even more videos on the AutoPress, using it for different projects and different crafts. And I was trying to come up with several different ones that use heavy pressure, like this glass cutting board, or are supposed to use heavy pressure, and see how they work in the Cricut AutoPress. The glass cutting board, 2 thumbs up, it did amazing. So that is one checked off my list that's supposed to have heavy pressure, but worked great in the Cricut AutoPress. The rest of these worked amazing as well, and I can't wait to do more sublimation crafts with my Cricut AutoPress. So I hope you liked this video just as much as I did. Again, if you have any questions about anything I've made or have suggestions for future videos and things I can try in the Cricut AutoPress, drop down in the comment section and leave those. If you liked this video, give us a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, head on over to our YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. We have videos just like this one every single week, and trust me, you don't want to miss any of those. So thank you all so much for joining me, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.